Father, before I say anything else, I just want to be still with you for a moment. I want to breathe out everything I have been carrying and breathe in the truth that you are here, not far away, not distracted, not too busy to notice me. Right here, in this quiet moment, you are with me, and that alone is enough to slow my racing thoughts and settle the weight in my chest. I come to you today in the middle of waiting. Maybe I did not even plan to call it that until this moment, but that is what this season is. A stretch of time between what was and what is not yet. A space between the prayer I prayed and the answer I am still watching for. A place where the calendar keeps turning, but the thing I am hoping for has not arrived. So I bring myself to you exactly as I am, tired in places I did not expect to be tired, hopeful in places I did not expect to still be hopeful, uncertain in places where I used to feel so sure. I do not have to perform for you. I do not have to pretend that the waiting has not cost me anything. You already know. You have counted every night. I have lain awake wondering when. You have seen every quiet disappointment I have folded up and tucked away, so no one else would notice. You have heard every prayer I have prayed more than once, hoping that this time, somehow, the answer would finally come. I bring all of it to you now. Not to perform faith I do not feel, but to become honest in your presence, because I know this is a safe place. You are not shocked by my weariness. You are not offended by my questions. You have never once turned away someone who came to you honestly, and so I will not hide from you today. I will not smooth over the ache. I will simply come. If someone else is listening with me right now, carrying their own season of waiting, I ask that you would meet them too, in whatever way they need. You know exactly what each of us is waiting for. You know the specific name, the specific diagnosis, the specific relationship, the specific door we keep hoping will open. You do not need us to explain the details before you act, because you already hold every one of them gently in your hands. So as I pray, I trust that you are speaking not only to me, but to every heart that has walked into this moment carrying its own unfinished story. Lord, waiting is one of the hardest disciplines of the human heart. It asks us to keep believing in what we cannot see, keep hoping for what has not yet happened, keep trusting a plan we cannot fully trace. It is easy to talk about faith when everything is moving forward. It is another thing entirely to hold on to faith when nothing seems to be moving at all. And yet here I am, still here, still bringing this to you, because somewhere deep inside me, there is a conviction that has not been extinguished no matter how long this season has lasted. You are still good. You are still faithful. You have not forgotten me. There is a particular kind of tiredness that comes from waiting, Lord, one that does not always show up on the outside. I can smile, go about my day, meet my responsibilities, and still be quietly worn down underneath it all, carrying a hope that has had to stretch far longer than I expected it to. You see that tiredness. You see the effort it takes just to keep believing on an ordinary Tuesday, when nothing about the day gives me any new reason to hope. I think of how your word speaks of a shepherd who leads his people beside still waters, who restores the soul, who guides along right paths. I need that kind of leading today. Not a shepherd who rushes me toward the destination, but one who walks patiently beside me through this particular stretch of the path, even when the path feels long and the destination is still out of view. So I ask you now, gently, to become near to me in a way I can actually feel. Quiet the noise in my mind. Slow the anxious pace of my thoughts. Let this become, for these next few minutes, a place where I am not trying to fix anything, not trying to figure anything out, simply resting in the truth that the God of the universe has turned his attention toward me, fully, lovingly, without distraction. For the person who has been waiting for a job to come through, who has sent out application after application and heard nothing back, or worse, heard no more than a polite decline, I ask that you would meet them in their discouragement. Remind them that their worth was never determined by a job title or a paycheck, that you see their effort even when no employer has yet said yes, and that you are able to open a door that no one else can open and close a door that no one else can close. For the person who has been waiting for healing, whether in their own body or in the body of someone they love, I ask that you would be near. Waiting for healing is one of the heaviest kinds of waiting there is, because it touches not only hope but fear, not only patience but pain. Lord, wrap your arms around every person who checks symptoms, who counts days between appointments, who prays the same prayer over the same body every single night. Let them know that you are the God who sees, the God who heals, and even when healing tarries, the God who never leaves the room. For the person who has been waiting for a marriage, for a companion to walk through life, I ask that you would guard their heart from bitterness and from the exhausting pressure to force something into being before its time. Let them trust that you see their longing for companionship, that it is not foolish or shameful, and that your timing, though it may feel painfully slow, has never once been late. For the parent who is waiting for a wandering child to come home, whether that child has walked away physically or simply walked away in their heart, I ask that you would hold that parent's hope steady. Let them keep believing what Scripture has always promised, that you are able to work in hearts we cannot reach and open eyes we cannot open, and that no one is ever too far gone for your grace to find them. For the person waiting for a broken relationship to be restored, for words to finally be spoken, for reconciliation that seems impossible from where they stand, I ask that you would soften what needs to be softened and give courage where courage is needed, while also giving peace in the meantime, so that their waiting does not have to be filled with anxious striving. For the person who has been waiting simply to feel like themselves again, to feel joy again, to feel like the fog has lifted, I ask that you would be gentle with them today. Some kinds of waiting do not have a clear finish line. Some kinds of waiting are simply waiting to feel whole. Meet them there, Lord, in that formless, nameless, and let them know they are not alone in it. For the person waiting on a financial breakthrough, watching numbers that do not add up, lying awake doing arithmetic that never seems to come out right, I ask that you would be their provider even in the tight and uncertain months. Let them know that your care for the sparrows and the lilies was never just a pretty picture, but a promise, and that you have not lost sight of their needs, even when the bank account tells a discouraging story. For the person waiting for direction, standing at a crossroads with no clear sign pointing either way, unsure whether to stay or go, unsure whether to hold on or let go, I ask that you would grant them clarity in your timing. Let them trust that confusion in this present moment does not mean you have abandoned your plan for their life. Sometimes the fog lifts one step at a time rather than all at once, and I ask that you would give them the courage to take the next faithful step even without seeing the whole road. For the person waiting through grief, waiting for the ache of loss to soften even slightly, waiting for a morning where the weight does not feel quite as heavy as it did the day before, I ask that you would be especially near. Grief has its own kind of waiting, one that cannot be rushed and should not be rushed, and I ask that you would meet that person with tenderness, not pressure, patience, not a timeline. For the person waiting for their faith itself to feel alive again, who once felt close to you and now feels strangely distant, who prays out of discipline more than out of feeling, I ask that you would rekindle something in their spirit. Spiritual dryness is its own quiet wilderness, and I ask that you would meet them there the way you met your people in every wilderness before, present even when they could not feel your presence. For the person waiting for a dream to be born, a calling they have sensed for years but have not yet seen take shape, a vision that still feels far from their present reality, I ask that you would protect that dream from discouragement. Let them tend it faithfully in this hidden season, trusting that what you plant, you are also faithful to grow. For the person waiting simply for relief, for a season that has been difficult in more ways than one, who is not waiting for any single thing so much as waiting for life to feel lighter again, I ask that you would carry what feels unbearable and give rest to what feels exhausted. And for the person who cannot even name what they are waiting for, who only knows that something inside them feels unfinished, restless, suspended, I ask that you would give them peace even in the not knowing. Let them trust that you are working even when the shape of the answer has not yet been revealed. Father, so much of my life feels like it is happening in a waiting room. I sit here, watching the door, wondering when my name will be called, wondering if it has been forgotten, wondering if I am even in the right room at all. And I confess that in this waiting, I have often tried to take control. I have tried to force doors open before their time. I have tried to manufacture answers instead of receiving them. I have tried to fill the silence with my own noise because the quiet of unanswered prayer can feel unbearable. So today, I want to lay that down. I want to surrender the timeline I have been clutching so tightly. I want to surrender my need to know exactly how and exactly when. I want to surrender the plans I have built in my mind, the ones I keep replaying because they feel safer than trusting an unknown future. I give you my need for control, Lord, because I know that my grip has never actually made anything happen faster. It has only made the waiting heavier. I surrender my fears about what might happen if the answer never comes the way I hope. I surrender my comparisons, the quiet ache of watching others receive what I am still waiting for, wondering why their season seemed shorter than mine. I surrender the shame I sometimes feel for still being here, still waiting, as if waiting were a sign of failure instead of simply a season, like winter before spring, like night before morning. I surrender my disappointment, Lord, the kind that builds up slowly over unanswered prayers, the kind that does not shout but simply settles quietly in the corners of my heart. I do not want to carry a heart that has grown hard from waiting. I want to carry a heart that stays soft, that stays open, that stays tender toward you even when the answer is delayed. I surrender my expectations of how this was supposed to look by now. I had a picture in my mind of where I would be at this point in my life, and reality has looked different. And that gap between expectation and reality has been a quiet source of grief I have not always known how to name. I bring that grief to you now. Take it, hold it, meet me in it. I surrender my need to understand everything before I trust you. Your ways are higher than mine, and your timing operates on a wisdom I cannot always trace from where I stand. I do not have to understand the whole plan to trust the one who holds it. And Lord, even as I surrender, I want to be honest that surrender is not something I do once and then forget. It is something I have to choose again today, and I imagine I will have to choose it again tomorrow. So please meet me not only in this moment of surrender, but in every quiet moment this week when I am tempted to snatch back what I just placed in your hands. Even here, even now, even in this season that has stretched longer than I expected, I want to thank you. Thank you for the gift of this day, the simple gift of waking up with breath still filling my lungs. Thank you for the ordinary mercies that arrive before I even think to ask for them. The sunlight through a window, a moment of unexpected laughter, a stranger's kindness on a hard day. Thank you that your mercies are new every morning, that your faithfulness does not depend on my circumstances lining up the way I hoped they would. Thank you for the people you have placed in my life who have walked with me through this waiting, even the ones who did not fully understand what I was carrying but stayed anyway. Thank you for the ones who prayed for me when I could not find the words to pray for myself. Thank you for the seasons before this one, the ones where you proved faithful in ways I could see clearly. Help me to remember those seasons now, Lord, to let them become evidence for my heart in this season where the evidence feels harder to find. You have not changed. The God who was faithful then is the God who is faithful now, even if the shape of his faithfulness looks different this time. Thank you for the doors that have opened along the way, even the small ones, the ones I almost overlooked because they were not the big answer I was hoping for. And Lord, I want to thank you even for the doors that closed, the ones that stung in the moment, but that I now suspect were closed out of love, protecting me from something I could not yet see. Thank you for grace. Thank you for mercy. Thank you that my standing before you has never depended on how well I have handled this waiting, on how much faith I have managed to muster on my hardest days. Thank you that your love for me is not a reward for good waiting. It is a gift, freely given, steady and unshaken no matter how I have wrestled with this season. Thank you for salvation, for the truth that my deepest need was already met at the cross, long before this waiting season ever began, and will remain met long after it ends. Whatever else changes, that has not changed and will not change. And Lord, thank you even for things I do not yet understand, for lessons I suspect I am only halfway through learning, for character being formed in me, in this waiting that could not have been formed any other way. I trust that one day I will look back and see purpose in places that right now feel only like delay. Father, this waiting has left wounds I want to bring to you honestly. There is a wariness in me that goes beyond simple tiredness. It is the wariness of hoping again and again, of building myself back up after each disappointment, of finding the strength to pray one more time when part of me wonders if it will make any difference. Heal that weariness, Lord. Restore what has been worn down me. There is disappointment I have not fully processed, moments where I expected the answer to come and it did not, where I had allowed myself to hope specifically and then watched that specific hope go unmet. I do not want to pretend those moments did not hurt. Heal the disappointment, Lord, not by pretending it never happened, but by meeting me in it and helping me trust you again. There is comparison that has quietly crept into my heart, watching others receive answers to prayers similar to mine, wondering why their timeline looked different from mine. I confess that comparison, Lord, and I ask you to heal the bitterness it can produce if I let it take root. Help me to celebrate what others are receiving without it diminishing my trust in what you are doing in me. There is fear, if I am honest, fear that maybe the answer is not coming at all, fear that maybe I misunderstood what I thought you were leading me toward, fear that maybe I have somehow disqualified myself from the very thing I've been asking for. Heal that fear, Lord. Remind me that your love for me has never been contingent on my performance, and that you are not the kind of God who plays games with the hearts of your children. There is shame sometimes in still being here, still waiting, when it feels like everyone around me has moved forward. Heal that shame, Lord. There is no timeline I am supposed to be keeping pace with except the one you have set for my life specifically, and your plan for me was never meant to be measured against anyone else's. There is loneliness in this waiting, the sense that no one else quite understands what it feels like to hope for this particular thing for this particular length of time. Meet me in that loneliness, Lord. Let me know that you understand it fully, that you have walked with people through long seasons of waiting throughout all of history, and that you are walking with me now. Restore in me what this waiting has worn thin, my joy, my confidence, my sense of identity that is not dependent on the answer arriving. Restore my ability to find gladness in today, instead of only searching for it in some future date when the waiting finally ends. I do not want to spend the rest of this season simply enduring. I want to actually live it, fully present, fully yours, even while I wait. There is also a quieter wound I want to name, Lord, the wound of feeling forgotten by you specifically. Not forgotten by people, though that hurts too, but forgotten by the one who is supposed to see everything, know everything, care about everything. I have wondered, on my hardest nights, Whether my prayer simply got lost somewhere, whether you are too occupied with bigger concerns to notice mine. I know in my mind that this cannot be true, that you number the hairs on my head and know when a single sparrow falls, but my heart has not always believed what my mind knows. Heal that gap, Lord, between what I know about you and what I feel about you. Let the truth of your closeness settle so deeply into me that even my feelings begin to catch up with what has always been real. There is a wound, too, of rejection, the sting of doors closing that I had hoped would open, opportunities that went to someone else, situations that did not work out the way I had prayed they would. Each closed door has left a small mark, and over time those marks accumulate into something heavier than any single disappointment on its own. Heal that accumulation, Lord. Let me trust that a closed door is not a verdict on my worth. It is simply a closed door, and you are still writing a story that includes open ones I have not walked through yet. And there is the quiet exhaustion of having to explain again and again to people who ask why things have not changed yet, why the answer has not come, why I am still in the same place I was months or years ago. I do not always have the energy to explain, and sometimes their questions, even when kindly meant, land heavier than they intend. Give me grace for those conversations, Lord, and give me grace for myself when I do not always respond to them well. Lord, I think of how much of the Bible is actually a story about waiting. Abraham and Sarah waited decades for the child you promised them, long enough that it must have felt impossible, long enough that they tried to make it happen their own way before learning to trust your way and your timing. And yet the promise came, not on their timeline, but on yours, and it was worth the wait. I think of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, waiting in a foreign land, waiting in a prison cell for a crime he did not commit, forgotten by the very people he had helped, waiting years before the dream you had given him as a young man finally came to pass. And yet when it came in a way far greater than he could have orchestrated on his own, and what was meant for evil, you turned for good. I think of Israel in the wilderness, waiting 40 years to reach the land you had promised, a journey that could have taken far less time, but became a long season of learning to trust you day by day, manna by manna, cloud by cloud, fire by fire. Even when they grumbled, even when they doubted, you did not abandon them. You stayed present in the waiting, visible in the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, a constant reminder that they were not making this journey alone. I think of David, anointed as king as a young shepherd boy, and yet waiting years, running from a jealous king, sleeping in caves, unsure when the promise spoken over his life would actually come to pass. And in those years of waiting, you were shaping him, teaching him to trust you before ever giving him the throne, so that by the time the promise arrived, he was ready to carry it. I think of Simeon and Anna in the temple, elderly by the time they finally saw the Messiah they'd been waiting for their whole lives, and yet neither of them stopped hoping, neither of them stopped showing up, neither of them let years of unanswered longing turn into bitterness. When the moment finally came, they recognized it immediately, because they had never stopped watching for it. I think of Hannah, year after year carrying the grief of a longing that seemed like it would never be satisfied, weeping so deeply in the temple that she was mistaken for someone who had had too much wine, pouring out her soul before you when she had nowhere else to pour it. You heard her. You remembered her, and in your timing, not before it, you answered a prayer she had been praying for years, and her sorrow became a song. I think of Moses, 40 years in the wilderness of Midian after fleeing Egypt, tending sheep in obscurity, likely wondering if the sense of purpose he once felt as a young man had simply been a mistake. And yet those very years were the ones you used to prepare him for the calling still ahead, teaching him the terrain he would later lead an entire nation through, teaching him patience he did not have as a younger man. The waiting was not wasted. It was preparation he could not have received any other way. I think of Noah building an ark for something he had never seen, a flood that had not yet come, enduring the confusion and mockery of people around him who could not understand what he was doing or why. He waited faithfully, obeyed patiently, and when the rain finally came, it came exactly as you had promised. I think of Zechariah and Elizabeth, waiting long past the years when hope for a child seemed reasonable, faithful in their devotion to you even in the disappointment of unanswered longing, and then receiving, in the fullness of time, a son who would prepare the way for the Messiah himself. I think of the disciples after the resurrection, told to wait in Jerusalem, not entirely sure what they were waiting for, or how long it would take, gathered together in an upper room in anticipation of a promise they could not yet see. And when the waiting ended, it ended with power poured out in a way that changed the world. Lord, if you were faithful to Abraham in his waiting, faithful to Hannah in her waiting, faithful to Joseph in his waiting, faithful to Moses in his waiting, faithful to Noah in his waiting, faithful to Israel in their waiting, faithful to David in his waiting, faithful to Zechariah and Elizabeth in their waiting, faithful to Simeon and Anna in their waiting, faithful to the disciples in their waiting, then I believe you are faithful to me in mine. My story is not separate from the story you have always been writing. I am part of the same faithfulness that has held every waiting heart before me. Help me to see this waiting not as a wasted stretch of time, but as sacred ground where you are doing something in me that could not be done any other way. A seed does not grow if it is dug up every few days to check on its progress. It grows in the dark, underground, unseen, before it ever breaks through the soil. Maybe that is what this season is. Not stagnant, not wasted, simply hidden for now, doing necessary work beneath the surface before what you are growing in me is ready to be seen. I do not ask you to make the waiting shorter than it needs to be. I ask you to help me become the person you want me to be while I wait. I ask you to redeem this time, to use it, to let it produce something in me that I will carry for the rest of my life, long after this particular season has ended. I want to sit with this season honestly for a moment, Lord, this specific season of waiting, and ask you what it actually means, not just what it costs me, but what it might be building in me. Waiting has a way of stripping down the things I thought I needed and revealing the things I actually need, which are so often simpler than I imagined. Your presence, your peace, a quiet confidence that I am held even when I am not yet holding what I hoped for. There is a fear connected to this waiting that I want to name honestly, the fear that time is running out. The fear that I am somehow behind where I am supposed to be. The fear that waiting too long means I have missed my chance altogether. Lord, I lay that fear before you, because I know that you are not bound by the clocks and calendars that govern my sense of urgency. What feels late to me has never once been late by your measure, and I choose to believe that your timing, though mysterious, is never careless. There is also a hope connected to this waiting, quieter than the fear but just as real. The hope that when the answer finally comes, it will be even better suited to me than what I could have arranged on my own. The hope that this waiting is not punishment or oversight, but preparation, the careful unfolding of a plan too intricate for me to rush. I choose to hold on to that hope even on the days when the fear feels louder. What do I need to surrender in this specific season? My timeline, my comparisons, my insistence on understanding the reason for the delay before I am willing to trust it. What do I need to believe? That you are near even in silence. That growth is happening even where I cannot see it. That the waiting itself is not a sign of your absence, but very possibly a sign of your care, protecting me from something premature, preparing me for something greater, teaching me something I could learn no other way. Lord, there is a kind of faith that only gets exercised in seasons exactly like this one, a trust that cannot be borrowed from anyone else's story, because it has to be built through my own experience of waiting on you. I do not want to miss the chance to build that trust simply because I was too focused on wanting the waiting to end. Let this season do its deep work in me. Let it produce a faith that is not dependent on quick answers, a faith sturdy enough to hold steady the next time life asks me to wait again, because I suspect this will not be the last season like this one. Lord, for the person who cannot see what you are doing right now, who has looked and looked for some sign of movement and found only stillness, I ask that you would give them the kind of faith that does not require sight. Faith was never meant to depend on seeing the whole picture. It is the confidence in what we hope for, the assurance of what we cannot yet see, and I ask that you would strengthen that kind of faith in every heart praying alongside me now. For the person whose prayer has not been answered, not for lack of asking, not for lack of believing, but simply because the answer has not come yet, I ask that you would keep their heart from growing numb. It is easy to stop praying about something after enough unanswered attempts, to protect ourselves from further disappointment by simply expecting less. Do not let that happen in me, Lord, or in anyone praying this prayer. Keep our hearts tender enough to keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking, even when the door has not yet opened. For the person who feels like nothing is changing, who examines their circumstances for the smallest sign of progress and finds the same unchanged landscape day after day, I ask that you would remind them that you often work beneath the surface before anything is visible above it. The most important growth rarely happens where we can watch it happening. Trust that you are not idle simply because the visible evidence has not yet caught up to what you are quietly doing. Your silence, Lord, does not mean your absence. I know this in my mind, and I ask that you would help me know it in my heart as well. There have been long silences in Scripture too, seasons between promise and fulfillment that stretched far longer than anyone expected, and yet you were present in every one of them, working even when you seemed quiet. I choose to trust that your quietness now is not indifference. It is not forgetfulness. It may simply be a kind of patience I do not yet understand, the patience of a God who is never late and never in a hurry, who sees the whole of my life at once and knows exactly what this moment requires. Teach me perseverance, Lord, not the gritted teeth kind that simply endures until it breaks, but the deep-rooted kind that comes from being planted firmly in you. Teach me to wait the way a tree planted by a river waits through a dry season, roots reaching down even when the leaves show no visible change, trusting the water it cannot yet feel, because it has learned where its source truly is. Lord, I want to speak some things over my own heart, truths I need to hear again and again, until they settle deep into the places where doubt likes to live. I choose to trust you even when I cannot see the way forward. I believe you are still working, even in the places where I see no visible evidence of movement. I refuse to let fear write the ending of this story before you have finished writing it yourself. My future is not outside your hands, no matter how uncertain it feels from where I am standing. You are with me in the waiting, not just waiting to meet me on the other side of it. I will not allow yesterday's disappointments to determine tomorrow's hope. I am not forgotten. I am not overlooked. I am not too far behind, too far gone, or too complicated a situation for you to handle. Your silence is not your absence. Even when I cannot hear a clear answer, you are near. Your delay is not your denial. A door that has not opened yet is not the same as a door that will never open. I was not created to carry this alone, and I do not have to. You who began a good work in me will carry it to completion, even if completion looks different than I imagined and arrives later than I hoped. I can bring my whole heart to you, my hope and my doubt together, and you will not turn either one away. Waiting is not wasted time when it is spent in your presence. You are able to do far more than I can ask or imagine, even in circumstances that look, from where I stand, like they cannot possibly change. I do not have to manufacture peace. You offer it freely, a peace the world cannot give and cannot take away. My strength is not found in my own willpower to keep hoping. It is found in you, and you do not run out. Nothing about this season has separated me from your love. Not distance, not delay, not doubt, not disappointment. Nothing. I was known before I was formed, and the plans you have for me were not erased by this season of waiting. They are still unfolding even now. Weeping may last through a long night, but I choose to believe that joy is still coming with the morning, whenever that morning arrives. I do not need to see the ending to trust the one who is writing it. Lord, take a moment with me now. If there is a specific burden connected to this waiting that I have not yet fully named, let me name it now, in the quiet just between us. Whatever it is, whatever name or circumstance or fear has been sitting heaviest on my heart, I place it before you in this moment. I do not have to have the right words. You already know what I mean. And if someone else is walking through this prayer with me, carrying their own unspoken burden, I ask that they would feel free to bring it forward too, in whatever way feels natural to them, whether in words or simply in the quiet posture of their heart turned toward you. Take a breath. Let your shoulders soften. Whatever you have been holding so tightly, you do not have to hold it alone for one more second. There is no need to rush past this moment. Let it be slow. Let it be quiet. You have been running toward an answer for so long, and here, in this small stretch of stillness, no running is required. You are already exactly where you need to be, in the presence of the one who already knows how this ends. If it helps, picture yourself setting something down, physically, the way you might set down a heavy bag you have been carrying on a long walk. That is what this moment can be, a setting down. Not a forgetting, not a giving up, simply a setting down, so that for these next few minutes, you are not carrying it alone. And if there is a name that comes to your mind right now, someone else who is walking through their own season of waiting, someone you love who needs this same peace, bring them before the Lord as well. You do not need the right words. Simply hold them in your heart and let God receive that unspoken prayer on their behalf, the same way He is receiving yours. Father, I do not know exactly what tomorrow holds. I do not know when this waiting will end, or exactly what the answer will look like when it finally arrives, or whether it will look anything like what I have been imagining. But I know who holds me, and that has to be enough, because it is the truest thing I know. Give me wisdom for the decisions still in front of me. Give me discernment to recognize your guidance when it comes, even if it comes quietly, even if it comes in a way I almost miss. Give me patience for the parts of this journey that are still unfolding. Give me courage to keep showing up, keep hoping, keep believing, even on the days when it would be easier to stop. Give me peace that is not dependent on my circumstances resolving the way I want them to. Peace that guards my heart and my mind, not because everything is figured out, but because I trust the one who has not lost track of a single detail of my life. Give me strength for today, not necessarily strength for the whole unknown future, because that is more than I can carry at once, but strength for today, and then again tomorrow, strength that renews itself morning by morning the way it always has. Help me to recognize your provision even when it does not look the way I expected. Sometimes I have been so focused on the specific answer I am hoping for that I have missed the ways you have already been providing for me along the way. Open my eyes to see your hand at work in the ordinary provisions of each day, and let that build my trust for the extraordinary answer I am still waiting on. I do not need to know the whole plan. I only need to know the next step, and I trust that you will show it to me when it is time. Help me to hold my plans loosely, Lord, not carelessly, but loosely, the way a person holds something precious yet is willing to let it be reshaped by a hand wiser than their own. I have made plans before that I was certain were right, only to watch you redirect them in ways that turned out better than what I had imagined for myself. Let me trust that same wisdom now, even when the redirection is harder to accept than it was back then. Give me eyes to notice the small mercies scattered along this road, the ones that are easy to miss when I am fixed only on the destination. A kind word from a friend, a moment of unexpected clarity, a sense of your presence in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. Let these small mercies become anchors for my faith, reminding me again and again that you have not stepped away from this journey, even in its quietest, most uneventful stretches. And when the answer does come, whenever that day arrives, let me recognize it as coming from you. Let me not become so focused on the waiting that I miss the moment the waiting ends. Prepare my heart now to receive it with gratitude rather than simply relief, to see it not as something I finally earned through enough patience, but as something you gave because that has always been your character, a God who gives good gifts to his children in the fullness of time. Lord, as this prayer begins to draw toward its close, I want to return once more to surrender, because I think that is where this waiting keeps leading me, again and again, back to open hands. I release my grip on the outcome. I release my need to control the timing. I release the exhausting effort of trying to make something happen before it is ready to happen. I let go of the plans I have been quietly holding onto as backups, as though I did not fully trust you to come through, and I ask you to help me trust you more fully, more freely, with less fear. I release my fear of the future to you. I release my fear of what happens if the answer never comes the way I hope. Even in that fear, Lord, I trust that you would still be good, still be faithful, still be worthy of my trust, because your goodness has never actually depended on my circumstances turning out the way I planned. I release the pressure I have placed on myself to have it all figured out. I release the pressure to appear strong all the time, to have unwavering faith every single day, because I know that faith is not the absence of struggle, it is choosing to keep trusting you in the middle of the struggle. Let this waiting become quieter now. Let it become less of a striving and more of a resting, less of a demanding and more of a trusting, less of a fighting and more of a simply staying close to you, one day at a time, one moment at a time. You are near, Lord, closer than my next breath, closer than the ache in my chest, closer than the questions I still cannot answer. You are here, and that changes everything, even when nothing else around me has changed yet. Let this stillness settle over me the way evening settles over a tired land, gently, without force, covering the days, striving with a quiet kind of peace. I have spent so much of this season reaching, stretching, straining toward an answer that has not yet come. Let me rest now. Let me simply be held. I release the ending I had imagined for this story, and I trust you with whatever ending you are actually writing. It may look different than what I pictured. It may take a shape I never would have chosen for myself. But I trust that whatever you write will be good, because that is who you have always been, in every story that came before mine. I release my need for this waiting to make complete sense before it is over. Some things will only make sense when I look back, and some things may never fully make sense this side of eternity, and I choose to be at peace with that, trusting your wisdom over my own limited understanding. I want to end this prayer the way I hope to end this season, not in despair, but in deepened trust, not with clenched fists, but with open hands, not looking only at what is missing, but looking at you, who has never once left my side. Thank you for meeting me in this waiting. Thank you for not rushing me through this prayer, for sitting with me in every honest word I have brought before you today. Thank you for the reminder that waiting is not empty time. It is time held in your hands, shaped by your wisdom, watched over by your love. I am not alone in this season. You are with me in the ordinary hours of today, and you will be with me in whatever hour the answer finally comes. I can trust you with the parts of my story I have not read yet, because you have already seen how it ends, and I believe with everything in me that your ending is good. There is still hope, even here, even now, even in the middle of this long, uncertain, sacred season of waiting. There is still hope, because you are still on the throne, still working, still faithful, still near. I can keep going, not because the waiting has become easy, but because you have promised to carry me through it, one day at a time, until the moment I finally see what I have been hoping for. And until that day comes, I will keep trusting you. I will keep bringing you my honest heart. I will keep believing that you are worth the wait. Whatever tomorrow holds, I will not face it alone. Whatever this week asks of me, you will be present in it. Whatever this season still requires of my patience, my endurance, my trust, I believe you will supply what I need for it exactly when I need it, not a moment too early and not a moment too late. So I will rise from this prayer and step back into my ordinary day, into the waiting room I have not yet left, and I will carry with me the reminder that I am not waiting alone. You are here in the long afternoons. You are here in the quiet evenings. You are here in the early mornings when the answer still has not come and I have to choose, once again, to trust you with the day ahead. You have been faithful in every season before this one, and I believe with my whole heart that you will be faithful in this one too, in your time, in your way, according to a goodness I am only beginning to understand. Thank you, Lord, for hearing this prayer. Thank you for meeting me exactly where I am. Thank you for staying close through every word of it, for not growing tired of my honesty, for receiving both my faith and my questions with the same steady love. I rest in you now in this moment, in this season, in this waiting that you have not abandoned and will not abandon. God is with me. I am not alone. I can trust him with what I cannot yet see. There is still hope, and that hope will not put me to shame. In the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.